So guys, welcome to another gardening video on my channel. With spring right here, we encounter other issues, right? And these issues are sometimes called weeds, right? So I'm going to give you 5 ways in which to get rid of these weeds forever and always. All right, I hope you enjoy. I hope it's helpful. Let's go straight into the video. Become a member, subscribe, like, let's do it. Come on. So the first method, and we have it right here, is cardboard. So basically laying cardboard on the ground where all of the weeds are, right? We put some cardboard, and this is a thick layer of cardboard, and preferably, you see this one, it has holes in there. Preferably these cardboard boxes shouldn't have any holes. The reason for this is because you want to block out all of the sun that the weeds get, right? And this is why we use the cardboard. So the cardboard is another layer that prevents the weeds from growing. You could use, let's say for example, just compost as a layer to just cover the weeds, but what I found was that the cardboard actually keeps the weeds restrained for longer, right, as compared to just putting on the mulch. So we can do this with double layers. Put the cardboard, as much as you have. The more cardboard you have, the better. Then cover this cardboard with some compost or some soil, or even mulch, or some wood chips, even some sort of mulch that can be used. Why cardboard? Cardboard, this one actually biodegrades, and it biodegrades fairly quickly, and it also attracts a lot of worms back to the garden. So this will basically it's like another layer to deter the weeds, and you also then have the soil, which is another layer to actually keep away. What I would also recommend is that you just water once you have planted this. Just water, just so that the cardboard is wet and that it stays on the ground. Okay, but this is the first method. This one really works, does the magic. This is how I started my garden. Then it's next door neighbor. This is more of a method that if you are not planting in here, then use this to get the soil prepared. Okay, so this one, you can see it's just a normal rubbish bag. It's just a normal, you can use a rubbish bag, you can use a tarp. I think that rubbish bags are readily available, so it's easier for people to get a hold of rubbish bags to use this method. So this method, I would say, is very, very, very effective. So this one as well, it works really well because again, it sucks out all of the sun that would get to the weeds. So this just completely blocks out any nutrient or any type of sunlight that would get to the weeds, to prevent it from growing at all. Okay, so this one is a really good one to use. The only disadvantage with this one is that you can't really plant in this rubbish bag. You would have to wait until the weeds are completely done, and then you would be able to plant in the spot, right? And also, once you take out the top so that you can plant, the weeds might pop up again because now there is no protection from them actually not being able to grow again, right? Then the third method, and one that I'm using currently to prepare this bed, and this is basically using living, or the ones that were living, basically living organisms. Okay, so you can see here, these were all alive. These were the plants that we had in the previous season, and I just basically put all of the ones that have died, and I just put them all in this area here. Why I like this method? I really like this method because basically it works in two ways. Okay, this one, first, it provides a mulch so that it prevents all of the weeds from growing. There's quite a lot of mulch here. There's like really a lot of layers, and it's a very deep coverage of it. You know, it's not just a few branches. So so this one, it really kills off any sunlight that may encourage the weeds to pop up. Additionally, it also helps with adding nutrients back into the garden. So you see all these dead plants, they have, you know, they had all these nutrients in them, they were all good and dandy, and then once they died, you know, all of this nutrients is still in there. So now all of them will provide these nutrients back into the garden while they are laying on there. So this is really, I think it's a really great method. When it rains, then, or if you water, this will also help in terms of retaining all of that moisture, because there's not a lot of sunlight that gets in there, which can deplete the water in the soil and also encourage the weeds. So if you have any dead plants from the last season and you're not using the space as of yet, then I would recommend this this method. It's either that you just get some methods in terms of just spacing out this mulch, and then find the soil and then plant in that mulch. I mean, plant in the soil. You can't really plant in this mulch. Rather, remove the mulch and then plant within that soil, right? So that's the only disadvantage with this. I would also say, if you are a clean or neat, or you want your garden to be neat, it's not really the neatest format. It compromises with how much nutrients it can add back into the garden, and also how much water it can also retain in here. So even with this method, you can use compost, wood chips as well. It's not just subject to only these. You can also use a lot of other substitute compared to these. So then the fourth method, and I use it for the spinashes, and this is bark mulch. So bark, as compared to the living surfaces, this one is not living, okay? So bark is literally just there to retain the moisture, and it doesn't add any nutrients back into the garden. Okay, so this is just to basically kill out all of the weeds and to kill out the sunlight that these weeds get. Okay, so you can see this one, I would say you would need a lot of layers. Okay, a lot of meters of layers. You can see here I've put in quite a few of meters of centimeters for this for the bark mulch. And then you see now we have actually reached the soil, which is here. So it's definitely one that you would need a lot of bark to use this method, but I really have seen that it really helps with the spinach because they like water, and also this really helps with the retaining of the water and killing of the weeds. One thing again with spinach, they don't like to be constrained, so having something like the mulch, they really take up a lot more nutrients, and they compete for nutrients. So with spinach, you don't want them to be competing, you want them to be alone. So having something like the bark mulch can really help in terms of killing off some of the weeds and also retaining the water. And then the last method, and probably the hardest method, and this is just to hand pick the weeds. This one is not the most nicest way. What I would suggest is, when you are using this method, try and take out the weed from its roots, right? This will help in killing the weed efficiently, right? And so that it doesn't pop up again. If you just take off, let me say, the head of the weed, and you just chop off the head, it will literally pop up again and again and again. So the best method that you can do when you are hand picking is to make sure that you are taking out from the root, right? and this will really help in terms of the reoccurrence of how these weeds pop up. Okay, so the disadvantages with hand picking is obviously the manual work that you have to do, and this is the hardest part of manual weeding. You know, it takes up a lot of time, and yeah, it's not really the most efficient way, I would say. What does help is having some sort of mulch, because then it's easier, number one, to get rid of the weeds when you are plucking it, and also it also reduces the amount of weeds that pop up. Also, another suggestion would be after you have watered or after it has rained, this is a good time to actually then hand pick these weeds, because it's easier to get them out of the garden. Yeah guys, and that will be the end of the video. I hope it's helpful. Now a rule of thumb, and just to also switch the way that we think about weeds. Weeds are a good thing, right? Weeds tell us what is deficient in the garden. So if you have certain weeds popping up in your garden, you can research and see that this certain weed helps with a certain deficiency. And a nice way to use these weeds in your advantage is basically when you pluck them out, when you get rid of them, take them and put them either in a bucket and then put water in there, let it fester a bit, and then use that to water your garden. This will add nutrients to the deficiencies that are present in your garden. And also another way, if you don't like to take them out and you're using the mulch, then this is also a good way to cover the weeds, because then they'll die on that spot, and this will also add nutrients back into the garden. So, you know, we just have to switch the way that we think about the weeds. But I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something out of it. Let's keep going, guys. Let's keep going. Spring is right here.